Hi there, and welcome to the Leaky Bucket Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Morgan, and this is the Financial Performance Podcast for entrepreneurs looking to get a better understanding of their numbers, to plug the leaks in their business, and to move from surviving to thriving. Hey there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Leaky Bucket Podcast. Today, we've got with us somebody who entered an industry that typically has a history of not really accepting anybody from outside, so entered with absolutely no credibility, no investment, and built a business from scratch, all within that space, and then exited for an 8-figure sum within 5 years. Today we've got with us James Ashford. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for having me.
So James, first of all, we like to start off by going into some quick-fire questions just to get some key sort of delving into sort of your background and that side of stuff.
Yeah.
So first things first, what in your opinion are you most well known for?
Oh, I thought it was quick fire. I didn't know they were going to be difficult questions as well. I don't know. I guess you could look at different spheres, can't you? So I guess in the accounting industry, best known for helping firms to price and sell their services more effectively so they can build more successful, more profitable businesses and live more interesting lives and buy swimming pools and things like that. So I guess that's what I'm known for in that space. But then I guess in different spheres, like at home and in my own town or my family, they actually probably don't know that much of what I do, really. I don't tend to talk about that with other people. So I'm sure my kids know me for something else, my wife for something different.
Fantastic. What do you think people mostly misjudge about you?
I don't feel the need to put on a front. I probably used to years ago. Like to kind of make myself feel credible or look like I know what I'm talking about. So I'm just myself. We've spoken many times. Like what you see on video is what you see with me now. If we were to have a private conversation, it's me. If we met in a pub, you get the same version. If you came into my house, you'd see the same version. So I don't feel the need to put on a front to get people to. Just a simple thing, Ian. I'm from Yorkshire and I speak with a Yorkshire accent. There was one time when I tried to hide that and try to speak with a more, to enunciate more clearly and stuff and lose my accent. I'm just me. I'll have a laugh. I'm outspoken. I maybe talk a bit more loudly than other people and I'll have a crack. And I don't care whether people then misjudge me and think, is he just kind of taking the piss? Does he really know what he's talking about? Because I don't need people to judge me based on their first impression or the words I say. They'll judge me on the actions and what I deliver. And that's what I do.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely like that. So yeah. So in your view then, you don't feel you get misjudged now because you live the truth.
No, I think I do. Especially in new situations, I think I do get misjudged. And people might think I'm just having a laugh or a chanter or he must have been lucky to have got where he got to. But that's because they haven't got the time to sit down with me and for me to explain the journey I have been on and the battle scars I've got. So I feel more confident and comfortable in me knowing what I know, and don't. So I think I probably am continue to be misjudged, but I'm all right with that.
Okay. What are the 3 most important values that you live by?
I did a post this week about integrity, and it's kind of a bit of a cliche word, but to my mind, if you kind of unpack that a little bit, it's just always doing what you say you're going to do, and just being dead honest and never having to lie, never having to put a front on for someone, doing things because they're right, not just because it's going to give you a short-term gain or something like that. I sleep really well at night time. Like when my head hits the pillow, I'm out like a light, right? And I will sleep soundly all night. And it's because I don't have a guilty conscience. I've got nothing I'm thinking about or worried about. So I just think I'm probably just kind of saying one thing here, but I could term it in different ways. But just absolute honesty and integrity, doing what's right, even if it doesn't benefit you or benefit you in the short term, being authentic and being you. And I think if you're not that, and and when people are 99% that, but 1% have got a different agenda or whatever, then you're never going to be true to yourself or to those people around you. I'm a big believer that the way you start any relationship is the way you start every relationship. So the way you would start an intimate relationship and a close relationship with your partner and then wife, husband, whatever it may be, is based on the same principles that you would start a relationship with a client. And people, I think try and treat clients in a different way, and think that they're just trying to get a short-term win out of someone or to sell something to them. And maybe that's how it works with Tinder, and you can swipe right and swipe left, and you see these people like on LinkedIn going, they just connect with you and they're like, can I buy from you? Can I buy from you? It's like, oh, a minute, simmer down. Or sorry, not can I buy from you? Can I sell to you? Can I sell to you? And not respecting how relationships are actually formed, and that there is a courtship process and a trust building process, and you have to go for coffee before you can kind of escalate things to the next level. So I don't know if that's 1 or 3 different values I've shared there, but just absolute honesty, transparency, trust is key.
Fantastic, great. And then a little bit of a challenging one, right? Would you rather win with no issues at all, or would you rather fall short and learn something new?
I've done a lot of the falling short for a long time, for like well over 20 years, and I learnt a lot, and so I think I'm ready. I just like having wins now and not learning anything. I think I'd prefer that, to be honest. But that said, like I spoke to a really good friend of mine on the way here this morning. He's built several businesses and sold them, and the current business he's got, he's built it to a £33 million revenue company within the last 4 years, and just had a huge challenge. He's just hit absolutely massive, just blindsided him. That could have taken the business out, and he's dug back deep into the business and re-establishing all around finances as well, Ian. And he had sight of what he thought was the situation, but there was deception behind the scenes that meant that the numbers and reports that he was presented with were not true. And when he got kind of behind the scenes, it was kind of really devious what was going on. But he's unraveled it all, and now he's got to the end of it, and the business will be way stronger, and he's kind of getting to a point where he's grateful for having gone through this now. He wouldn't have said that a few months ago when it all hit the fan. Yeah, I'm happy with wins, but it's really the growth that inspires us. If we don't have healthy challenges, the challenge that we face with must be surmountable. We must feel that we can get through it, but it has to be suitably challenged to push us and to force us to grow and to develop us. Otherwise, you're not going to be fired up. You're not going to feel alive. You're not going to be up early in the morning and wanting to drive through it. So I've answered both answers there. I've given you both.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it is one of those ones, isn't it? It's a balance that it's more that reality, I suppose, for people just to see, to go, look, you can't just have it complete plain sailing. What's the saying that is a calm seas never made a skilled sailor? And yeah, you need that balance between, yes, you need to be winning and you need to know what winning looks like. But at the same point, if you're not being challenged, then what are you missing? What are you not seeing?
Yeah, completely.
So, okay, James, everyone talks about that they're chasing success, but I feel like success means something different to different people. What does success look like for you?
I don't know, and it's a really good question. I can give you kind of different answers. I know what kind of a good definition of it, which is, I think this is by Jim Rohn, but it's kind of making meaningful progress in a reasonable time is that definition of success, in that so long as we are progressing, and it has to be in a reasonable time. Like, and the example he gives when he talks is like, if you're a year 7 student, the reasonable time to complete year 7 is in 1 year. Like, if it takes you 2 years to complete year 7, then you're not making reasonable progress, So we have to be pushing ourselves. But then I think deep down, if our ego kicks in and stuff, we want to, when we think about success, we want to achieve a certain level. I think personally, for me, if I'm being dead honest, of financial freedom. And And I've come to kind of understand that we're all after the same thing, which is freedom. That's ultimately what we're after. We're all after freedom to be able to do the things we want to do with the people we want to do them with, whenever we want to do it, for as long as we want. That's the ultimate goal. That's what we're trying to achieve. And there was a study I read in a book recently, a really good book. It's called The Psychology of Money. And they kind of interviewed people on the deathbed or certainly in kind of like the latter years of their life. And none of them said, what is it that you're after? What did you want more of? What regrets do you have? None of them said, I wanted a bigger car, a bigger house, more money, more whatever. It was all about meaningful experiences, doing more of the things they loved doing with the people they loved. It was all simple stuff. That said, when I was building the business and selling it, so you have to really then dig within, and I did hit a real low after selling it because after selling the business, because I did feel I'd achieved a level of success, and I assumed that would bring certain feelings as well. We do the things we do because we think we're going to get certain feelings and feel a certain way. And when I didn't get that, I had to kind of dig in and explore it further. So again, a long-winded, vague answer to your what is success, Ian.
Yeah. I just want to delve a bit deeper there, James, because I think you mentioned something there that I think not many people would anticipate, which is you've just had a big exit, which is probably what you've been aiming for such a long time with so many failures. And yet actually you're saying that you have a down moment where you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not feeling successful. How did that hit you? Because I'm sure you weren't expecting it.
Yeah.
How did you cope? What did you do?
I think people had warned me about it. And the other thing is like, you can't tell anyone about it. You can't, like we look for sympathy from other people. Like you can be in hospital and do that photograph that everyone does with a cannula in saying, oh, hope I'm all right soon. You get loads of sympathy. I can't post on Facebook saying, oh, feel really down. Just got all these millions, working for a wonderful company, freedom to do what I want to do, driving a lovely car, just bought a huge house. My family's wonderful. We're all really in good health. And I just feel so down. You feel down and have no right to feel down and feel that you can't talk to anyone either about it. So I've got other very close friends who are entrepreneurs who have sold businesses. So they were great people to be able to confide in. And one of them, funnily enough, the guy that I spoke to this morning said, I knew this was coming for you. I knew this was on its way and you're going to have to go through this. And there's lots of things that come with it. One of them is loss of identity. In terms of you were this person, and then all of a sudden you're not this person. And then another thing is that you're climbing up this mountain, and it's the struggle that you enjoy. And I remember someone saying to me, I can't remember who it was, but it was a world champion boxer. And when he won the title, he hit a real low point. And the way he explained it was, I trained all my life to become world champion. I'd never trained to be world champion. And it was the becoming, it was that overcoming, that challenge that is the enjoyment, so I do love that. I need projects. I'm a creative person. I love to be creating something and building something. We are creative beings. We love to do that. And so once you've created and done and sold, you lose that. You've lost an element of it now. You're into the maintenance or scalability mode. It's a very different thing. And the other thing is I got some counselling as well. So I found a therapist and worked with her for a few months. And she was great. She was really good. And I was given some really great books as well, kind of my own therapy, spent time with some really good friends who were able to help me to navigate this, who had been through it or seen other people go through it as well. So just not being afraid to reach out and get help. My wife's great, but then eventually she'll get to a point where she's like, look, just get a grip. Yeah, you need to get a grip now. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get a grip. So I'm all right with getting a grip, and I'm all right with being told to get a grip. And that's what I feel I've got now.
Yeah. So before we delve too much into that area, right, let's just go back to sort of early life. What really led you on that journey to then what you're now doing?
I don't know where this feeling came from, but I always wanted to have my own business. And I don't know if it's because I associated certain freedoms with that, or because I'd seen people around me as a young age who had their own businesses, who seemed to live interesting lives, drive nicer cars, seemed to be more of a laugh, where my parents, certainly my dad, always uptight, always stressed, working for a big company, losing his pension because of the way the company mishandled it, working late hours, watching him leave early in the morning, used to sit at the window at night time, wait, I could recognise his car headlights. Remember when he bought his company car was a Peugeot 405, the new one, and I could recognise the headlights dead easily coming down the road and sit waiting for him to come home at night. My mum was the manager of an old people's home, high responsibility, working ridiculous hours, would work Christmas Day, would work New Year's Eve, not necessarily a high salary that would accompany it. So just seeing, I guess, people with what I perceived as freedoms and seeing people with what I saw as being trapped and with stresses, and so always wanted that for myself. But I've kind of always just had like a Forrest Gump life, as I kind of say, Ian, in that I just always followed what seemed to be the right thing at the time. So the thing that always drew me in at school, I was great at maths. I got like A stars at maths, got 100% in maths exams, A levels, all, you know, I just bossed it. But then my real passion was in design, and so I won awards for design, and then someone said you should become a product designer, so I went and did product design and absolutely loved it. Like, I was just so hungry for it and just devoured every aspect of it. When I completed my degree, I became very close friends with the tutor afterwards, and he said, we actually graded you as 100%, but we didn't know what implications that would have for us and what the exam board would do if we kind of graded you at 100%. So I think they graded me at 94% or something because they felt it would keep them under the radar and not get an examination. Then I did a master's degree, and then after that tried to develop products and get them into the market and get them sold, and it didn't really work because I always had to go through a manufacturer or some distribution channels, and I didn't know how to control those. So I had all these ideas and things I wanted to produce, but I wasn't able to get them into the world. And then just started meandering really after that. I started teaching art in prisons. I was a close-up magician, which I had been for a number of years. I went to London to be a close-up magician, lived next door to Liam Gallagher in a flat, being a close-up magician, waitering, butlering, like just anything and everything I did for many years. Came back to Doncaster. I was just really good friends with someone at that time. She called Becky, and she says she was going through some difficult times. She said, will you move back to Doncaster? And we were just friends. She said, will you move back to Doncaster? I said, I'd only move back if you marry me. And she says, you're the only person I'd ever marry. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll move back then. And like, always fancied her since school. Moved back up, carried on in various jobs. And then when the recession hit in 2007, 2008, got made redundant twice in quick succession. And that was when I really realised I'm going to have to bite the bullet. I'm going to have to go into business. It's the only thing that's going to get me to where I want to be. And started studying it and learning it and set up a marketing agency. I'm just thinking back to your question here. Remember your question, because I've just lost my train of thought here.
Go where you're going, James. It's just how you got to how you got to the point you are now.
Got it. So the reason why that worked with me as a marketing agency and a web designer was because it kind of spoke to me in the fact that I could be creative, I could have creative output, I could produce a product, albeit a digital product, and digital marketing assets, logos, etc. But I no longer needed a manufacturer or distribution channel or whatever. I could be very much in control of that process myself. So I was able to be creative and get an output into the world with very little friction or very few people involved in that process to output it. And that was where I then gravitated towards, and then that kind of led me on various paths after that. But that was what I guess got me to the point, and I've missed out in all that story many different jobs, from working in pubs and restaurants, as a cleaner in an old people's home, attempting many different businesses, loads of different business ideas, setting up Magic Dad, which was a video series teaching dads how to be magical, all sorts of stuff, all of which failed, and that got me to the point where I set up that business.
Do you think you could have made GoProposal the success it was without all of those learnings and failings and challenges along the way? Or do you think they just made you who you were, or who you are?
Yeah, when I look back, I wouldn't change a single thing, even though at the time there were certain difficult parts. So once I set up the marketing agency, that then took me on a different route and was fantastic. Learned all about web design. Then you build a website for someone, they'd be like, well, how do I drive traffic to it? So I'm like, oh shit, I'll learn about SEO or learn about whatever, Google ads or content marketing or video marketing or whatever it is. Built that business, realised it was never going to be a true business in the sense that I'd come to understand it, which was a profitable enterprise that ran without me. It was always going to be very much reliant upon me, and I wasn't going to be able to achieve the things I wanted to do. So I set up several other businesses with other people, believing that they would allow me to do that and create something scalable that could run without me. I'd learned very much about systemization in that point. But then all of these things, and the fact that, and this is a big one, we didn't have the full finance function in place in that marketing agency. I had 18-month-old financial data. I didn't have monthly management accounts. I didn't have a budget. I didn't have a forecast. I was making guesses, gut decisions, and they were bad decisions. Not majorly bad, but each of one. You know, you make one bad decision here and it just takes you 1 degree off course. And if you don't have someone on your side helping you with that the finance function, telling you what that decision will make. So for example, selling websites to someone, sell a big website to someone, and then they say, look, it's a huge project. We'd love to go with it, but we can't afford it unless you let me pay for it over 12 months. Yeah, great. Get a project in, pay over 12 months. Not now realizing that I'm effectively funding their project. I'm giving them a loan, and I'm now not going to get all my money in for 12 months. But then all of a sudden, that then led me to offer the same deal to someone else and someone else. But no one had just said, look, let's just kind of figure that out. Let's just see what that looks like for you and how you'll be able to afford your staff and things. I didn't have that. And so that was one decision, for example. But then all of a sudden you make, which would have been okay, but then you make another decision and another one and another one. And then eventually you get to a point where someone takes your blindfold off and you realize you're on the edge of a cliff, and that's what took us over, and that's what caused that business to fail. And then after that, it was so frustrating, because I remember the liquidators coming in and they just said, this is the saddest situation. It's the saddest business I've ever had to liquidate, because you nearly had it all right. You were systemized, your clients loved you, you gave great value, you priced them, you used so many things right, just a few things wrong. But I think in my heart of hearts, because I was trying these other business ideas, realizing that this was never a true business in the sense that I hadn't understood it, I'd lost the passion, lost the desire to build that into something. Looking back, I know I could have dug back in and sorted it, but I didn't. And so all of that, Ian, and then what came after that was all the groundings for GoProposal, and made for the perfect story and for the perfect situation. So I wouldn't have changed a single thing. And I would just say to people, anyone listening to this who's going through something now, whatever challenge that may be, is to ask themselves, where is the gift in this? Where is the gift? And your brain will come back and say, there isn't a gift. You just lost your main member of staff, or your competitor just wiped out half your business, or whatever, right? But if there is a gift, where is it? If I had to find a gift, what would it be? And I did a post this morning on LinkedIn where I was saying, we can't always be in control of what's happened to us, or what's happening to us, or what's going to happen to us. But what you are in control of is the story that you tell yourself about what's happening. And you can either tell yourself a story that is keeping you stuck, or you can tell yourself a story that's going to release you and free you up and serve you and help you to grow and move forward. And I think what I've always been good at is, whatever's been going on, I've been able to have a good narrative about it. And this is not about being optimistic. This is not about, because blind optimism will take you down as well. It's about being realistic and seeing things as they are, not better than they are, not worse than they are, but just as they are, and giving yourself a good story that's going to move you forward.
Yeah, James, you're looking for the gift and things. You told me that a long time ago, and I've used it so many times in. It comes back to your other point, actually, about the finance function and logic and that behind things. You have that event, and then you react emotionally, and we can't help it. We're human beings; we have to react emotionally. And then that's what we say we're doing when we're building finance functions that give control and clarity. Is we're helping people to go, look, you've had an emotional reaction. Don't now take an emotional action. Come back to logic and just think about this. And ultimately, that's what that element is. Looking for where's the gift in this situation is, hang on, just stop being emotional. That's not going to help you move forward. How do you look for something that's logical that you can take action with and move forward and have control? Use
that's great. I think there's something else as well in there, Ian, that's kind of halfway between. So you have something, an emotional reaction, but then you can present something logical to me, which you can show me on paper. It makes perfect sense. You can build your spreadsheet and show me, but I still won't do it, right? And it's because there has to be some ground in the middle, which is about the action being reasonable. And so, although you can present me with something logic based on my experience and what I'm going through and the pain and the emotion, etc., if I now make a reasonable response, like you think about what we do in this space, right, with accountants, like I can show firms that are losing money, look, this is what you need to do. Get rid of them 20% of clients, ring them today and just get rid of them. Take this 30% of clients, double all the fees, you'll lose 20% of those, but it won't matter. And then these ones do this, like I can show you it on paper, I can show you the evidence, I can get you to do 5 of them to start with and whatever, and you'll prove it to yourself and you still won't do it, okay? And then it's like, okay, well, that's the dream, that's the reality, that's what would work, that's the logical solution, but now let's come up with a reasonable solution, okay? So I think that's a nice way of thinking that logic is great, but we have to recognize that we're emotional, social beings as well. And so I'll take reasonable.
Yeah. I think emotion's always going to be there. You're not going to remove emotion. There has to be that element of emotion. It's just how are you finding that balance? Like you say, maybe to find reasonable between emotion and logic, because we're still going to make an emotional decision of whether we're going to follow the logic or not. So you can't just remove emotion completely.
But this comes back to getting to the truth, though, and I think what numbers do and the finances do is they get you to the truth because you can't argue with it, you know. And then when I was going back to the start about what is your key value, just about being honest and transparent. I was with an accountant the other day. He asked me to go and speak to one of his clients. I was talking to him, great guy, great energy, and we're talking about things, and he was telling me what he was going to do. And I asked him why he wasn't doing this certain thing, and he gave this story, and the accountant didn't say anything, and I let him finish the story, and I went, yeah, that's all bullshit. That's a great story you've just given me there. It's not the truth. And I can't help you until we get to the truth of this. So let's have an honest conversation and get to that. And it's getting back to that and making a decision from there. Because if you presented something to me logical that makes sense and is the pure truth, but I'm now giving you this story that is in conflict with that because I'm not prepared to accept reality and the honesty, then I'm stuck. I have to get back to that truth first. And once I've gone to there, then I can come back out of it a little bit and make a decision that I believe is reasonable, but with honesty. I think it's really needed.
Really like that. It's good. James, part of the introduction, I talked about the fact that you broke into an industry that is not accepting of outsiders. You've just gone through then, all of this challenge of where you've got businesses and that have failed. What gave you the appetite to go, I know a great industry I can go into that I have no credibility in, and that's the one I'm going to go for?
Yeah. So after the business failed, I then and it was close to getting right. And I just started studying. I was like who has the best information about businesses? What are the courses I can invest in? Like world class, like the best in the world, the leading experts that are doing this, that are having an impact, that are seriously making businesses grow and to become more profitable. The primary function of a business is to make money. Yeah, the primary function of a business is to make money. Now you can say, no, it's not. It's my reason why. I want to do good in the world. I want to impact the climate. I want to do beautiful. It's a beautiful reason why. That will get you out of bed in the morning. But you can have an amazing reason why and make zero cash, and you will not be able to fulfill your reason why. Your business is done. The primary function of the business is to make money. And once you're able to do that, then you can employ people, train them, develop them, attract clients, and fulfill your reason why. You can do all of those things there. And so what I was looking for was, what are the undisputable truths? What are the core principles on which successful businesses, timeless principles, regardless of what's going on with the latest marketing fad or the latest social media platform, regardless of what the latest trend is, what are undisputable truths that successful businesses are built upon? Reading all the books, investing in mentorship, investing in courses, and building out these philosophies. And through my business connections, I was connected to some quite sizable businesses, some startup businesses, and they trusted me enough to allow me to implement these strategies and ideas. So I had a bit of a playground, effectively. So one of them was a local football training academy for young kids, doing 75 grand a year. I implemented these strategies and philosophies, built out, corrected how they were charging. It was how are you taking money? Like, how do you charge? What are you charging? How do you get the money off the parents? How are you in control of that? What if you ever wanted to increase your prices? What about when you become back registered? How can you increase your fees then? Just some questions. Implemented some systems, and that business within 18 months went from 75 grand a year to £750,000 a year. There was another company, same one, that the guy that I was speaking to this morning, his business at the time was doing £13 million in revenue. I went in and fixed how they were signing up new clients, how they were signing up new account managers, account customers. They were doing between 6 and 8 a month. Within 30 days, I'd got them doing 50 and 60 a month, just by solving the way they priced and sold and got money coming into that business. And if you accept, and you don't have to, I don't feel the need to prove myself to anyone, you believe what you want, that the primary function of the business is to make money, and then you dig into the core of that, business is really simple, which is I've got to get customers, give them value, get paid for it. That's it. All businesses are the same. Get customers, give value, get paid for it. You can switch them other two pieces around, which is attract customers, get paid, give value. That's fine. But effectively, that's at the core of all businesses. So when you look at that, those two halves in the middle of what are you offering, what's the promise, what's the value, what do you charge for that, and how do you get that flow of money coming to you? It's all right getting it agreed, but how do you agree it faster? How do you convert more? How do you get the money in quicker? How do you get more of it up front? When you start to solve those fundamentals, it has a huge effect on businesses. Businesses have two types of problems. They have core problems and surface problems. Most business owners are trying to solve the surface problems because they're the ones that are present every day. They're the ones that people are making a noise about, etc. But they're not fixing the core ones. My analogy for that is, imagine if you had lots of spots, acne, and you cleared it up with potions and lotions, right? Where the core problem is you need to change your diet, exercise more, drink more water, eat more fruit and veg, and get outside, right? That's solving the core problem, which means you don't need the lotions and potions, which are not actually going to fix anything. What I found was that every business I went into, when I fixed that, the knock-on effect was massive. You speak to most businesses these days, I've seen it loads in our industry, in the accounting industry, people saying, can't recruit good staff, you can't get good staff, really struggling. No, that's not a problem. You can't pay people enough. That's your problem. If you could pay more people, if you could pay higher salaries, you would have no problem getting great staff. I promise you. Okay? So therefore, if you fix the money issue in the middle, you now don't have a recruitment problem. Where what people are doing is trying to solve the recruitment problem and not sorting out the money problem. Okay? So I was able to fix it. And at the time, I was involved in a mastermind group. And I had this core belief, it came from Zig Ziglar, which is, if you help enough other people get what they want, you will eventually get everything you want. Yeah? So at the time, I was involved in a mastermind group, working with 4 or 5 other businesses, helping them. We were all helping each other. And one of the people sat at that table was Paul Barnes of My Accountancy Place in Manchester. I don't think the first time we met, we chatted that much. The next time we met, I said to him, do you want to go for a run in the morning? We went for a run. That was the last time I ever invited him to run because he was just like, whoosh. I like to jog really slowly for short distances. He liked to run really fast for long distances. So the next time we met, I had a lie-in. But anyway, and I said to him, can I come and have a look at what you're doing in your business? Can I look at how you price, how you sell, how you sign new clients? I'm really interested in that. And he's like, no, we're good. We've got it locked down. We're great. We use, well, I'll tell you exactly what they use. They use Practignition, which is now became our main competitor. And they were happy with that. I said, that's great, but let me come and look at it. Let me judge it by my standards. And he says, yeah, but compared to other accountants, we're good. And I said, yeah, I'm not comparing to other accountants. I'm comparing to Amazon, to Uber, to world-class businesses. I'm going to show you what the experience needs to look like. Went in, showed him it, and it was what I implemented was a massive improvement because it meant they could agree fees whilst they're with the client, sign the client up on the spot, empower all the team to do it, etc. And even at that point, Ian, I still wasn't thinking about moving into this industry. at that time, I was working with Paul. I was working with Mini Kicks with a football academy. I had the waste management company I was working with. I had a big company that was doing 300 million in revenue. I was doing some interesting stuff with them. So I had lots of projects I was going on. A physiotherapist practice up in the Northeast doing £1 million in revenue. I was working with them. So I had 5 or 6 businesses that I was operating with at a high level, having a lot of impact. I'd built a video course. I just sold that for 20 grand into this other company. So my bets were paying off. My strategies were working. Then all of a sudden, another accounting firm said, how do we get what they've got? I've heard about it. And because I was always focused on how do I become a millionaire? Like, I know it's, again, you can call it crude, but how do I create financial freedom if that sits more comfortably with you, right? And I was always looking for that, working ridiculous hours. You wouldn't believe very few people could keep up with me for the amount of effort, for the amount of time I would put that effort into. And I was doing that on many fronts, helping many people, creating great value. And all of a sudden, I saw the path in front of me and it was like, ha! And that was what drew me into the industry. So it wasn't that I made a choice. And when I made that decision to get into the industry, I got a phone call from someone who had been in the industry for a long time, written books in it, was an outsider. And he said, what are you doing? He says, you made a huge mistake here. He says, it's the worst industry to go into. They will question everything that you do. They don't want to spend any money. They want everything to be perfect. They won't respect you because you're an outsider. Your main competitors had all this investment, $24 million investment. How are you going to go up against them? You've made a huge mistake. And I said, mate, at the end of the day, these are human beings, mums, dads, with hopes, dreams, and fears. I'm going to speak to that and I'm going to help them out.
Yeah, love it. There were a couple of bits, James, that you dropped in there that I thought, I've had those moments, and probably you had an element within it. But I'm thinking, to your answer about the main focus of a business, or the main purpose of a business is to make money. I'm just trying to think to the listeners here, and they're just going to go, oh, yeah, but James, come on, the customers first. Like, isn't that selfish to think that the business is there to make money? What's your sort of response? And come back to that.
Yeah, no, the customers aren't first. And I'm saying this to you as a customer of GoProposal. You're not first, I'm afraid, Ian. You're not even second. You're third. Okay?
Yep.
So the primary function of the business is to make money. Because if I can't do that, I can't do anything else. I cannot keep you. My second core priority is my team. Okay? Because if I can't build that team and I can't, pay them what they need to be paid, I can't create the space for them to develop themselves, to develop systems in the business, and ultimately to serve you to an incredibly high level and give you great value. Again, I'm not being fair to you. And then that's where you come in, and that's where, how can I create the most value, genuinely serve you, be in the service of you, do what's right for you, even if it's not right for us. I've had people that have come to us at events and they're like, these are potential customers. Right, tell me why I should buy GoProposal and not your competitor. And my initial response is, well, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know, what are you trying to do? Like, let me guide you, I'll help you, right? And so that's where, if you have that order wrong, so making money at the core, building an incredible empowered team second, and then delivering great value and serving your clients third. If you have that order wrong, you will always struggle. Yeah. How do you feel about me telling you where you sit in the pecking order as a customer?
It's fine, James. I know it. To be fair, we do exactly the same. And actually, we encourage the most common response we get when we're talking to business owners to go, look, you've tried to be nice for too long. It's all about this why, which I know, there's lots of people who talk about it, Simon Sinek and so on. And it's great and it's wonderful. But like you say, actually, you can't live your why if the business can't make money, and therefore you're struggling and can't live the life that you deserve. Yeah. And therefore, how do you start becoming what they're labeling as selfish and go, yeah. We have that conversation so many times with our clients and go, do you think we're selfish? And they're like, no, you're always helping us. You're always guiding us. Yeah. Great. But I am, because if it didn't work for me, I wouldn't be doing it. And I think you mentioned about, recruitment issue, and there's always people within the industry saying you can't find good candidates or whatever. I literally did a post about this maybe last week, which was, it was off the back of that somebody was complaining and moaning. I gave some advice and guidance. they basically shot me down and went, no, you're talking rubbish. So I just thought, you know what, I'll go back and I'll find our facts and our information. And it was back in February, March time. And it was off this fact that we can afford to pay good salaries because we put the focus on money first. But we generated over 1,100 candidates in 2 weeks for a cost of £300.
Wow.
Because we knew what we wanted, we knew what we were willing to pay, and we knew how to then go and find that and attract it. And there's no secrets, there's nothing special, it's all shared in the post. But it was that coming back to go, actually, because we can make money, because that's our focus, we can afford to pay above market salaries. And because then, second to that, we put our staff first, effectively, that actually the culture and the environment and everything is all built around them. So everybody's like, oh, we'd love to work in that environment. So no, it doesn't phase and affect me to go, oh, we're third. Yeah, I think if I heard it as a headline to go, oh, you're not first and you're third, I'd go, oh, that hurts, James.
Yeah.
Like, but then actually with the explanation, everything that goes around it, ultimately, if we were first, there's a risk that GoProposal may not be there tomorrow in order to serve us, in which case we're not first, we're flipping last at that point.
100%. You're third, but by being third, I'm allowed to serve you to the highest degree. I'm able to bring you brilliant people who genuinely care, who can give you great value, and who can make a difference in your business, in your life. And that's what excites me. That's why, I get shivers thinking about it. Like, we've had many conversations over the years, and of me just getting on a call with you and chatting and helping and things. And that's what I love to do, and that's what fires me up. That is my why. But in terms of the business, you have to be in that position in order to be able to do all of those things. I think about my team. I've been able to. You can't grow a business. You can only grow a team, and they will grow your business for you. So if I think about the opportunities, like I started off with one person, we've got 30 members of staff, giving employment to 30 people, paying great salaries, giving great opportunities, and now we're in Sage. The opportunities just become even bigger, and seeing how we're impacting their lives is amazing to watch. Last year, I think we brought in an additional £20 million into the accounting industry by helping people like you to price and charge and sell the services clients need. But then in turn, think about the impact in businesses, small businesses. Think about the failure that I had because I didn't invest enough into the finance function of my business. What I've helped you to do, Ian, and people like you, is to be able to serve your clients to high levels and to give you the confidence to sit in front of them and to say, I know you think you need this.
Hey there. Really sorry for interrupting, but I really wanted to let you know about some amazing bonus content we have available for you. You see, not only do we record behind the scenes, but also we go deeper into some of the key topics that come up during the conversation. Now, you can find out more about this and access all of it free of charge over on Facebook. Just search for the Leaky Bucket Podcast Community.
I know you've been spending $1,000 a year with your previous accountant. Well, you need to spend 10 with me because this is what you really need. But in doing so, I'm going to help your business to grow so much better and give you what you need, right? So what excites me about this is not only that I'm helping you, but I'm helping your hundreds of clients to avoid the mistakes and pitfalls that I've made as well. And that's what just kind of completes all of this for me. And that's why when you say you can be third, you can think, well, that sounds crap. Yeah, but look at all the value being generated throughout that network because of that ordering.
So, James, I'm an advocate of GoProposal. I'm an advocate of your methods. I've used a number of them. Don't necessarily agree with all of them, but that's fine. I don't need to, in my view. But I can see value in terms of what they bring, and I can see how that's helped shift the life that I live and what I need to do. And we're not the only example. There are lots of accountants who are similar examples to that. However, there are still people in the industry that believe that you just talk absolute crap and bollocks, and it's all just
I know. And they tell me, I know that, because they tell me on social media. And I did a post the other week. Oh no, we sent an email out last week, and I was away at Centre Park. I don't know why I looked at my emails while I was away. And I had all these accountants messaging me saying, amazing story, love this, James, thank you so much for your email, you've been inspiring me for years, all this stuff, right? And then I got this one, I can find it on there, and this one accountant messaged me back and said, this is absolute drivel, stop sending me this self-centered bullshit or whatever it was. And I'm like, wow, mate, just unsubscribe. There's like an unsubscribe button in every email. Just hit the button, man, it's cool. Like, So yeah, I know there's people that disagree because they tell me.
How do you cope? Is it that you go, do you know what? There are only people have to be ready to want to be helped, and therefore you can't. There's no point in you banging your head against a brick wall of somebody who doesn't want to be helped. It's just those who are ready and they're open.
It's always upsetting, you know, because you think you're doing good and you want to help people, and so when people have a go and have a pop at you, and it was just a story. I wasn't even like, there was no sales pitch or anything. It was just like an inspirational story, right? Which is a good story. Is how the one I shared about going on holiday in Skiathos, and how 10 years ago we had to pretend to be at the hotel, and we were in a crappy hotel down the road, and we had to stand outside the nice hotel and have a photograph taken, and then 10 years later I'm able to go back and actually afford to stay in the hotel. The lessons I'd learned that got me there. You can't look at that as a bad thing, right? So if you're looking at that as a bad thing, I just think, what's going on in your life? Like, how sad is your life not to kind of take something positive from that, and not only not to take something positive, but to actually stop what you're doing and to get on your phone and to commit some time to reply and send it to me. Like, if you see something that's, I don't know, too sickly for you or too positive or whatever, you just dismiss it and move on. Like, or you unsubscribe from them or whatever. You then don't feel the need to and I just think in my head, like, your wife must hate you. Like, no one's coming to your parties. Your kids must think you're a dick. Like, that's what goes through my head. To the fact that you've got such bitterness in your life to kind of want to share it with me. But even though I know that, it still upsets me when I see it, and it still winds me up. I know to move on from it, but I still find it upsetting. I think we all would. You can get, 10 things, 10 comments or 10 bits of feedback that are great and uplifting, and you'll focus on the one. In fact, what I realised was I'd not replied to the 10 people that sent me nice things. I only replied to him who sent me the bad thing. So it's hard. You can't convert everyone. Not everyone's going to think you're right. And you don't need them to either. You've just got to champion what you believe to be right for the right reasons and help people, and allow them to take what they need from that. Like you're saying, you don't agree with everything. And there'd have been once upon a time when I'd want you. No, you must agree. But I'm not. I'm much more open and relaxed, and we all have a different view of the world based on our own experiences. We all have a different view of money. Everyone has a unique perception of money, a unique psychology towards money that's based on the location you were born, the year you were born, what was happening in the economy at that time, your parents' beliefs about money, what your parents were doing at that time, whether you had siblings or not, what happened after that period, whether your parents divorced or not. So many millions of events create your unique psychology towards money. So I can sit here and say, well, this is what I think you should do. I'm speaking from my perspective and my belief system. I'm aware and cognizant of other people's belief system, and I try to make my content adaptable and consumable. But ultimately, I can't shape all of your experiences. I can't, accommodate everybody. So, yeah, when you define your tribe of people who you want to work with and move forward, the only way you can define that tribe is also to define who's on the outside of it, right? It's not just defining those people who are inside, it's defining who is on the outside, and getting comfortable with people on the outside, knowing they will never, ever be on board with that.
I've got two routes I want to go. I think I'll go first one first, James, is you come into the industry, and my belief is in order for GoProposal as a product and as a system to be able to launch, first of all, you created yourself being a key person of influence within the industry. That's my belief of the direction you went in.
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
Yeah. Completely.
Do you think you could have made it work without that being the case?
Don't think so. And again, all my experiences of being a magician and knowing how to be a performer and doing all this video content and studying business to the nth degree and understanding all these key principles, I was kind of been in preparation for this and studying Daniel Priestley's key person of influence and going through his talks and things. I knew what I needed to do. So as soon as I came into the industry, I wrote a book. Well, as soon as I came into the industry, I helped my accountancy place to achieve success. That was the first thing I did with their sales process. Then the next firm, which was Northern Accounts in Leeds, heard about it, and then we built the system to go into there as well. That what commercialized the product and made the spark happen. And then maybe two or three other firms started to hear about it just through natural selection or whatever. And then I thought, right, I need a book. What can I write about? Well, all I can speak with authority about is what I've actually implemented, what I've done, and the impact it's had. So I wrote down the sales process and systems that we'd implemented into my accountancy place, of which GoProposal formed part of it. I wrote the book within a week, published it, had typos in it. It was so thin that the Amazon wouldn't even allow me to have a text on the spine of it, right? So I published it myself, learned how to do that, and it had some typos in it, got some criticism. It was a bit too salesy towards GoProposal. I'd kind of tipped too far in it being a sales tool versus an educational tool. So I expanded it, and then in lockdown, I completely rewrote the book. I could have published it as a new book, but I felt I owed it to the first one. It's called Selling to Serve, to bring in all of my learning. But I'd only been in the industry I was in the industry like 3 years at that point. So I was able to take all of that learning and create what I believe is a significant and important piece of work, that really delved into the psychology of how to and why we should charge more and what that process and system should look like, and gave it all away. And there are some references to GoProposal, but it's certainly not a sales document. And there's many people that use our competitor's product, but use Selling to Serve as their training manual for their team, even though they use a competitor. And that's absolutely cool. It allows us to impact the industry in a different way. And then beyond the book, just being prolific at producing content, daily video content, just constantly. We also built the community as well, which you're aware of. So people would ask questions in the community, and then I was able to take answers, use that to inspire video content, share that with the world. And it came, Ian, genuinely from a position of 100% of service, of helping. So when we produce videos, I'm aware that through them videos, you'll gravitate towards GoProposal. If you like what I'm saying, you'll arrive at the conclusion that only GoProposal can help you to fulfill the principles that I'm sharing. It's the only product that does. But when you share the content, speak on stage, produce a video, write a book, it has to then come from a position of, I'm here to help you regardless of whether you give anything to me. I'm going to serve you, I'm going to impact your life in a positive way. And that was how I became a key person of influence in the space.
So I think, James, you've got something that you did, I think, that conflicts with what most software companies do, right? We all know the valuation methods for software companies are very favourable. And you've been open and said, look, that was always your plan, was that exit. However, I feel what a lot of software companies get lost in is they get so focused on that exit that they forget to actually serve the customers who are there at that point. That's never been the case. And I think actually there were probably plenty of GoProposal customers who were shocked that you were exiting. Not myself. I got the idea that was going to be at some point. But how did you manage to create that balance that not many software companies do, where you actually, your current customers feel like they're being served well, but you've also got this growth strategy towards growing annual recurring revenues to be able to get towards the exit valuations and that you want?
Yeah. So, great question. We never took investment, Ian, either. And after month 3, we were profitable, and we stayed profitable. And so I never, whether it's through naivety or whatever, but never went down that route. I didn't understand it, to be honest. It scared me to death to think that someone was lending money and we were at the mercy of other people. And so because we didn't take investment, it allowed us to stay true to our true north of serving accountants, helping them to price properly, sell more confidently, so that you could impact your small and medium-sized businesses in a more positive way. And that was our mission from the start, and has always been our mission. And because we'd never taken investment, we're allowed to do that. And not having money forced us to make the right decisions. So like I remember being at an event in America, QuickBooks Connect it was. I think we spent like 20 grand getting there and promoting it. And I'm like, how much business have we got through this? And I'm like, I'm sure I could get a full-time videographer for 20 grand. Let's stop doing events and let's use that money and get a videographer. And he's actually in the next room over there filming all the Sage leadership team today. And he's been great because we've been able to build 24/7 content online to drive a digital marketing strategy versus turning up at events. And when you've got your own money, it forces you to make the right decisions, I guess, and stay true and pure to it. But back to your question, so that was what enabled us to serve our customers, doing the right thing. And when we took about an exit strategy, it wasn't just an exit strategy we had, it was an option strategy, of which exiting was one of the options. So other options were scaled it, backed out of it completely and let it run without me, franchised it into other industries, and another one was to exit it and to sell it. And it was another option. And the moment you've only got one option and you've limited yourself, you're now backed into a corner and you have to take that course of action. Well, what you want to do is create yourself the most number of options because maybe no one wants to buy it, right? Like that's a possibility. And if you've only banked on that happening, that's when you'll start making silly decisions. Well, we now need to fund it and get more money, etc. And that's when you're going to start making bad decisions. My team were fully aware of what we were doing. Everyone that joined GoProposal knew that they were joining a business that was going to be sold and how they'd be impacted positively by that. So it was only one option. At the start of the whole process, and this was hugely valuable because of my experience with my previous business and the business failing and the personal impact that I'd had in that we had to remortgage the house, me and Becky split up, I moved out, we were apart for a year, we got back together again. But all of that uncertainty, when we started this venture, it was like, right, I want complete transparency. I want you to understand everything now. So what we did was we did a financial planning exercise together. And I would recommend, when I speak, I'm starting to write a book for entrepreneurs. And my first section is always about get on the same page with whoever's in your life at home, right? Figure out what you're trying to do together first. So we had that conversation. How much do we want to earn a month? What do you want to do? What do I want to do? How often should I be at home? Do I want to take the kids to and from school every day? How many days a week should I be away? Like just to figure out what's going to make a great life at home first and foremost. So we figured that out. And I'll share some numbers. We concluded that if we could get to 10K a month of personal income after tax, life's golden. Like we're living our best life. Yeah. So Becky don't need to work. We could do all the family holidays, live in the house we want, drive the cars we want. Life's golden, right? So that was a goal for us to get to that point and we got there throughout the growth of GoProposal. So when we came to exit, already living my best life. So our life didn't actually change that much, to be honest. So that was the first part. The other thing was we had, in our financial planning exercise, figured out how much money would we need to live the rest of our lives at that standard. And the answer was £5 million. If we sold the business for £5 million, we'd never have to work again. We've solved the problem of money. That was the goal I was trying to aim for. How do you solve the problem of money? So we are free to do the things we want to do, the people we want to do them with, when we want to do them for as long as we want. If I want to go kayaking for a month, we can go kayaking for a month. Yeah. I don't need a lot of money to do that. 400 quid inflatable kayak from Decathlon. We've got a river down the road. It's not a big cost, but I can do what I want to do. Right. So we had that number in our head. The goal was, my commitment to my wife was, when we get to, if we can sell the business for £5 million, we will. So I've just realised here, Ian, that you're not actually third in the pecking order. Our customers were fourth in the pecking order because ahead of that was my wife and my marriage. So I could think, right, well, what's right for my customers? What's right if I want to stay married? I mean, my wife is gorgeous. She's lovely. We're best friends. I'm proper punching, mate, above my weight. So that's a key driver. And achieving what you want personally is such an important thing. That's the number one thing. If you're not getting what you want in terms of not only just money, but in terms of time and in terms of energy and what you need to be present for your children, if you're not getting that, there's no point, right? So that was a key driver. So once we got to the point where I felt we're over that, which was we're over £1 million in revenue. I'd seen other businesses selling this in this space. Some businesses started talking to us saying, would you be up for selling? The numbers they were talking about was over 5 million. I now knew we were in the right territory. Back to your question, as a business owner, your ego can always kick in. But what if I scaled it? What if I got to this £5 million revenue? What if I went to this? I knew where I needed to get it to for us to achieve what I wanted personally. It would have been selfish of me, for my family and for my children, for us to have gone past that and to try and scale it beyond it. It would have been selfish of me for my team to do that, because I was getting to, at that million and a half revenue, they were asking me things. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we do now. How do you bring churn down less than 2%? I don't know. I've never been here before, right? So we started to need that support structure around us. You're panicking all the time. As a business owner, you live in constant paranoia. What if something goes wrong? What if the app's not secure? What if someone makes a legal claim? What if our competitor does this? You have all these fears. I wanted to relieve those fears from us by having that big brother arm around us as a big company. And I wouldn't have been being fair to you as well, Ian, to our customers, because I knew the speed we wanted to go and to develop our app. We had 2-3 developers at the time. We've now got a team of 12 developers, right? I knew I couldn't give you what you wanted if we didn't make that sale. So it was right in the point of where I needed to get it to that we'd already thought about 5 years prior to that.
Yeah, I like it. The focus. I feel like this is a John Morello thing. Yeah, know what you're aiming for, know where you want to exit at.
Completely.
And then actually,
Built to Sell was a big influence, and I was on a podcast of his recently, and it's a 2-part. It's a really good podcast, not as good as this one, but it was a really good podcast to listen to. Absolutely, yeah.
James, I'm going to go challenging, difficult question, right? Which is you exit, right? No, actually, let's get a bit of background and scope to it. There are a couple of big players within the accounting market that have mixed views within accountants, throughout accountants. Sage being one of them. How did you work out that you were going to be able to communicate that exit correctly when there have been other exits, I suppose, just prior to yours from other players within the industry, that there had been some very strong opinions being thrown around? And obviously, again, we always hear the negative ones. We don't hear the positive. But yeah, how did you work that in your head to go, you've got all these somewhat loyal followers. Yeah, they were more than customers.
Friends. Friends. I've got people who message me on WhatsApp personally throughout this. So I've got people, I hope I could consider you as a friend, Ian. Like, I feel if I was in your area and I wanted to come for a swim, that you would invite me round, But certainly I've built friendships in this space. Yeah.
How do you manage that in terms of, not everybody's going to be happy, not everyone's going to see the positives? How did you work that in your head to go, have I got the appetite to communicate that correctly? And what was it that Sage managed to do to convince you that what everyone hears no, that's not fair. I was going to say what everyone's saying. That's not what everyone's saying.
Go on, say it. Go on, say it.
No, because I was going to say that's what everyone in the industry is saying, but it's not. It's those who are making the most noise are saying it.
Yes.
That's not necessarily the fair reflection. So why? What was it that made you convinced that actually this is the right move, this is the right exit for you, for the customers and the friends that you then care about, and you're going to make sure that they're looked after?
Yes. Okay. Great questions. I'll just set a bit of context for people that who maybe don't know the background, but obviously Sage defined this category. Sage started this category for accountants. Like, they developed the software. Everyone will have trained in Sage 50, right? So everyone used the software. They were the large player, they were the dominant one in the space, and then cloud software came along. What was the first cloud software company? It's called the one that Iris bought, that Dwayne Jackson sold.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it was. Anyway,
Cashflow.
So Cashflow, that was it. So that was the first proper solid cloud software that came in, and then Xero, Intuit developed theirs, etc. And Sage, huge business, top 100, FTSE 100 company, got a great business model that works, a great big beast of a product, and then all of a sudden, these other products turn up on the market that were far simpler than Sage 50, doesn't allow an accountant to do everything that they want, but trying to circumnavigate the accountant to an extent and start to give end businesses a simpler tool that they could use, even if it didn't give the accountant all of the capabilities that Sage 50 did. Well, for that to challenge a business that's been going for like 30 years or 20 years at the time, whatever it was, is a huge thing. And, you know, they'll hold their hand up and say they were slow to respond to it. And when they launched their product, it wasn't comparable to other cloud software companies, etc. And then, you know, I believe they're there now. I think that Sage Cloud Accounting is comparative to the other products. I think they've all got challenges and they've all got advantage of them, but I think they're all much of a muchness now, to be honest. It's down to the company that you want to work with. But what Sage never did very well is to actually say, well, hang on a minute, we could have never put Sage 50 in the cloud anyway. It's too big. It's the equivalent of saying like Microsoft Word in the cloud. You can't put Microsoft Word in the cloud. There is Word, you can have Word, but that is not full Word. When I wrote my book, I couldn't write my book on the cloud version of Word. I needed the desktop version of Word to have the full power and capabilities. And then you do have a version online where it's useful to share and collaborate in a very simple way and to get comments on it. That's useful for that. I don't think Sage are very good at saying, hang on a minute, this is too good to put up there. And they're now there with their cloud connected version of Sage 50. Anyway, that's the legacy and that's the history. So there is a perception in the market that the likes of Xero, etc., the cool kids on the block, that they're the funky ones, that they're dominating the cloud space, and that Sage, I think someone had posted, were a dinosaur at the time. And when we made the sale, that was the most aggressive thing someone said. And I said, they're a dinosaur. Hang on a minute. They're a FTSE 100 company, employ 11,000 staff. That is very much alive. Like, what are you talking about? So that was, I think, the most aggressive challenge. But when we came to sell the business, we went to all the players that we thought were the people that we should be going to in this space. And our product is only useful for accountants. Only accountants buy our product, right? So the company that wants to buy us has to have the full intent of wanting to serve accountants and see them not as a marketing channel, not trying to reach around them and get to their end customers, but get to their, but actually genuinely see them as a partners and wanting to work with them. So I can't go into the specifics, but not everyone was interested in GoProposal because they didn't. That's not their strategy. So if that's not their strategy, then and they don't want to buy us, I can't sell to them, right? Okay. So we could only talk to the people who were aligned with our direction, our vision, which was of serving the accounting industry, giving them all of the tools that they need, and helping them to grow and to flourish as a genuine partnership, has been integral to serving SMBs, not as just someone I can poach your customers off. Okay, so that was the first thing. So when we went to market, we got 6 different companies that are interested. We then got to go and sit around the table with these businesses and really understand them. Now, the operations director of GoProposal is Heather. Heather happens to be my niece. So I had a very vested interest in making sure that whoever bought us really served our client, our staff. Going back to my staff being my priority, it had to be the right home for the team. Was this going to be a company that was going to look after them, that was going to respect them, that was going to give them the autonomy to continue to do the good work they were going to do, that were going to support them but at arm's length and not restrict them, that were going to bolster them, give them money, finance, people, etc. So that was a big thing. And were our values aligned? Like, are these people that we're going to want to work with? Do we trust them? Do we like them? And we went to some of those meetings and came out and concluded that we didn't. And we didn't like them. And as Heather, as a young female in a largely male-dominated industry, felt marginalised in some of those meetings. She was asking the board questions and they were answering me, right? And she was like, James, if that's how I was made to feel, how will Morgan feel? How will Danielle feel, etc.? So we were very much... someone said to me, when you sell this business, in 5 years' time, you have to be able to walk past a member of staff that you had at that time, and they should be hugging you. Like, you know, because of the impact you've had. And I very much had that in my mind. And so when we went into this, the reason we chose Sage, and I do say this, they weren't the highest bidder for the business. There was a higher bidder, but they were the right bidder. So they were the right set of values for the team. Their product roadmap is very much aligned with ours. So what Sage have, which you're starting to see glimpses of, is this concept of the digital network. So regardless of who's in this space, no one actually has the reach of Sage. I think Sage run more payrolls than anyone else through Sage software in the country. They have the closest proximity to the UK market. They're the only software provider based in providing accounting software based in the UK. I'm in their head offices now in the UK. They've been in this space for 40 years. They're mainly accountants. Like you speak to CEO Steve Hare, and it's easy to forget. He was an accountant. Like, he understands accountants, loves accountants, wants to serve them, speaks to accountants all the time. So their heritage is with serving accountants, with giving them what they need. And this concept of the digital network in terms of bringing data together is all about real-time accounting and real-time data. So it's okay having digital products, but you need truly digitized products. And so if I give you an example of that, Ian, an analog speedometer on your car gives you the speeds it moves. A digital speedometer gives you the same information, just in a prettier way. Maybe you can control the color of it, right? But it's the same data. A heads-up display on your car is a digitized offering because it knows the speed of the road that you're in. It knows how far you are from the car in front. It's saying you need to slow down. It's saying you need to speed up. It's giving you real-time data to make decisions on. It's the difference with the challenger banks and what they're doing now. So many accountants in this space have digital products, but they're not truly digitized. Where Sage are is, and where they're certainly headed, is a fully digitized suite through the digital network with more data than any other software company has. That is the same direction of travel that GoProposal was going in. So in terms of product fit, even if the market perception at the time, not by everyone, but by some people, was that actually they're slightly archaic, it's because they're basing that information on what's happened previously and not on where they're going. I've got to see behind the curtain and I can see where they're going. So I had many conversations with accountants, and some I rang and spoke with personally. And I said, look, you've trusted me so far. You've trusted me with to help shape your business and to impact you so far. Please trust me now with this decision that I'm making. And if you don't see that this is a good decision this year, within the next 18 months, 2 years, you will see that this is absolutely the right decision. And now, Sage own Auto Entry, they own Futurely, they've got GoProposal. And what they're saying is, look, Ian, if you use Xero, we respect that. Use it, it's cool. We're not trying to convince you, but allow us to serve you in some way. Allow us to give you GoProposal, allow us to give you Futurely or Auto Entry, so you can experience what we're about as an organisation, so you can understand whether we're someone that you want to work with or not. And hey, if you want to look at Sage at some point, come and have a look at us. Back to the guy I spoke to this morning on the way here. I keep bringing him up. It's called Chris, by the way. Anyway, he's just moved over to Sage Intact. His business has grown, like I say. He's the top 5 fastest growing business in the UK. He's gone from 0 to 33 million in 4 years. And very smart guy, very astute when it comes to accounting, big accounting team around him. And Sage Intact was the only product that will allow him to scale and grow and do what they need to do. And he explored everything else. Did I answer your question? I know I went off on one in many different tangents there, Ian.
Yeah, I think I was thinking as you were talking and thinking, what did you do that managed these potential hot-headed reactions at the time? If I recall correctly, like, obviously you had to wait until the official word and everything was out. But actually, within moments of that happening, within the Facebook community, where there's probably over 1,000 members at that point, actually you were straight in there in terms of there was a video released by you in terms of going, this is why, this is what we've done, this is here, and actually, here's my mobile number, and if you've really got a concern, just give me a call. That's not
just goes back to that
normal,
transparency.
Yeah.
Probably not, no, right? So what happened was when we announced it, so I knew some people, because of their historic perceptions, would have a challenge. But even though when I spoke to some of those people, one guy, Glenn Martin, said a really nice thing, which says, look, I might not be their biggest fan. I might use Xero, but you know what? I'm Sage at heart. And that was like their underlying. He said, I want to see him win. I want to see him get there. And that was just a lovely sentiment that even though they maybe didn't have the product that certain firms needed at that time a few years ago, they'd never like done anything wrong. They'd never like tried to. They were not a bad company. They were a good company. They just didn't quite have what they needed at the time. They didn't move fast enough. They're there now. But that was just a lovely sentiment. So what we did was, prior to the announcement, I'd had 10 firms under an NDA, and I'd gone and spoke to them personally that were either kind of influenced in the market or that I knew might be a bit hot-headed or whatever, that I wanted to make sure I just told them first. So that was one of them. When we announced Simon Chaplin, who's very prominent in this space as well, I said, right, I want to do a live webinar straight away to explain it. So we announced it on the morning, and then I think we did a live webinar that afternoon or the following day. Certainly within 24 hours of the announcement, we're doing live webinars. And he said, you have to have someone asking you the questions. It can't be you doing it. You have to be interviewed. I said, okay. And he said, yeah, it has to be me as well. And I said, cool. I said, should we bring someone from Sage on it as well? He says, no. He said, I can't quite explain why, but it feels like you're bringing your new girlfriend to break up with your ex-girlfriend. He said, that's a bad analogy, but that's kind of what it feels like. He said, it has to be you, and you have to let me ask you whatever I want. So we did it. He turned up, and he was just ripped us. He just waded straight in with his questions. We opened it up to the market, and I stood and answered every single question. I never shied away from any question because, going back to honesty, transparency, authenticness, I wasn't afraid of anything. I knew I'd made the right decision for the company. I knew I'd made the right decision for the team, for customers, etc. And so I wasn't scared, Ian. And then I also announced in the group, like you say, like, give me a ring. Like, I'll have a chat with you. Like, I'm not afraid of this decision because it's the right one. Even if you can't see it now, you will do. And since then, we have seen a change in the market. You know, I know firms who staunch Xero users and they buying up other firms and they move them over to Xero. The last firm they bought, this is a particularly big firm I'm talking about. They've moved the new firm all over to Sage Cloud. Like, there's a shift, but heads are turning. Or I'll speak to firms who, again, one in the States who use Xero. My last conversation with him, he said, look, we use Futurely, we use Auto Entry, we use GoProposal. We'd be foolish now not to consider Sage as well. And that's what I guess I'm trying to do, is just to create a positive perception and allow people to make the decision that's right for them.
Yeah, from my perspective, I'm not. I was gonna say I'm not a Sage fan, but that's probably not fair. I'm not a fan either. I just wasn't in that marketplace. We're in Xero, and that's what we do. I don't tend to jump on the hot-headed reactions. That doesn't tend to be my approach. I can only probably recall one time I've done it, and actually it was with GoProposal, and I apologise to you on that occasion where I was hot-headed. I think it was about a pricing change that was an accident, I think, that happened in the background.
I can't remember that. I didn't take it personally. But I do remember that there were a couple of hot-headed reactions to the announcement. And like you say, you only need a couple of people and it can sound like a real storm. And there was one guy in particular that was like doing my head in. I remember Paul messaged me and he said, James, stop responding. I'll respond. Let me, because I'm a bit much. So Paul Barnes had 10% of GoProposal, my partner.
Yep.
And he was a bit more detached. He said, I'll respond. And he messaged me 10 minutes later. He went, I'm mad now. I'm getting in my car. Anyway. And then Becky, my wife, says, James, chill out. I'll react. And then she was like, who's that guy? And the words that came out of her mouth are very strong. So there was a lot of emotion. But you know what? If there wasn't a lot of emotion, it proved that no one cared. So the fact that there was emotion there, even if some of it negative, meant that people cared. We built something special. We had a strong community, you know, and I wanted to understand people's concerns. And they thought we're going to go corporate, that maybe it was going to be mothballed, that we weren't going to preserve our autonomy and our growth, etc. And we've remained true to everything that we've done. People thought that we'd stop investing in like our Xero integration. It's like, well, why would I do that? Like, Ian's our customer. Our goal is to serve Ian and to give him GoProposal. I'd be foolish not to preserve and actually develop our Zero integration because I don't want to lose you as a customer. And so the way we've reacted and to understand people's fears, I think kept us on the right side of everyone.
Yeah, it probably brings us to a great closing point and the rounding up of all that sort of stuff, which is when you released that video and you put the post out and going, here's my mobile number, effectively the underlying sentiment was, guys, I've never broken my word. I've always been open. I've always been honest. I'm trusted within the industry. Just trust me. And I think that was my feeling. I didn't watch your interview with Simon because my feeling was, well, yeah, but you've said you've considered what the effect this might have on people. You're happy. You've put yourself in our shoes and gone, actually, if I was in your shoes, I'd be happy. So therefore, just trust me. I made the right decision. And I was like, okay, that's fine. That's all I need to know. And I think.
And maybe what people forgot. And maybe what people forgot in that time is that Paul Barnes, who's a 10% shareholder in GoProposal, his firm uses Zero, fully Zero. And he looked at it and he was involved in conversations and was like, this is a great decision. I'm not scared. This is right. And, again, as a business owner, it is terrifying, and you're always thinking what can go wrong. And you should be thinking what can go wrong because lots can go wrong. And I always remember, like, once we signed up we became owned by Sage, I remember a meeting. It was the best 9-minute meeting of my life, okay? And it was like there was 3 people on it. It was a board meeting for GoProposal. They're like, right, we're going to put X millions of pounds into GoProposal's bank account for them to go and get all the staff they need and do everything they need to do to fulfill their roadmap and fulfill their promises. Are we all in agreement of that? Yeah, cool. Right, signed off. Thanks, bye. And I looked at the clock and it was 9 minutes. I'm like, that is an efficient meeting. Millions of pounds then got dropped in the GoProposal bank account to effectively say to Heather, go and get all them staff, go and build that dev team, go and do what you've told everyone you're going to do, get on with it and we'll get out of your way. We're here for you if you want us to support you, but we're not going to slow anything down. And what's great and what's been very humbling is to be on the end of the receiving end of this is we're a small organisation in the grand scheme of things, but the respect that they have had for us to learn from us, to say, can you teach us? Can you help us? Can you, how are you doing this digital marketing thing? How can we learn from you? Heather has just done a session with the leadership team in Sage on OKRs and how we implement those in our business. They're so open and receptive, which is for us to be small and nimble and agile, to have this large organization look at us and say, how can we learn? We don't want to, stifle anything that you're doing. We want to support and help you and actually learn from you. It's just been, a beautiful part of the process. And it's actually, as of tomorrow, it's our 1-year anniversary of selling to Sage. So, and I'm as resolute that it was the right decision in my thinking as I am today and tomorrow as I was back then. And I think the market and certainly our customers are seeing that was the right decision.
Yeah, I think great. I didn't actually realise it was 1 year tomorrow. So yeah, congratulations. And I think my view was, James, at the time was, I messaged you, I think, and just said, congratulations, well done, and fair play to you in terms of you being able to. I knew in elements of the stories and the failures and the frustrations and everything you've been through before, and that actually, it was almost that thing of it was one last effort, from my understanding, to prove that you can do what you always thought you could do, and you actually almost the case you went into it and go, right, the things that I've done the other times, they're where all the learnings were. I need to take that into one final effort where there will be mistakes, but all those big mistakes that have been made before, they all come together and you make significant progress. And I know one of the big things that frustrated you actually majorly was that people kept labeling you as an overnight success story, which I know you've said videos overnight, 5 years in the making, or even longer than that because it was all the failings before. But
they didn't see the sleepless nights or the nights where I was crying, like literally on my hands and knees, like no one saw those things. And so people can't say that if they've not been through that and seen it. And that's why I think, going back to one of your earlier questions, the reason why I don't feel I have to prove myself to anyone, because the people that are close to me saw what I've done and the decisions I've made and back here, but other people don't have that full awareness of everything that you've done,
Yep. If people want to be able to connect with you, James, where's best to find you? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn's the best place. I share most of my content. That's the place I kind of gravitate towards to sharing most things. You can find me on there, James Ashford. I've got my books, which are Selling to Serve and Untapped, which you can get on Amazon, and there's audio versions of those as well. And whilst they are specifically to the accounting industry, if I gave you the actual document and you replace the word accountant with any other service-based business, the principles perfectly translate. That's just the industry that I serve. So there's still lots to be taken from that,
Yeah, fantastic. And if there's any accountants listening, then it's just GoProposal.com. Yeah, if they want to go and find out more about the product and what it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, James, for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Ian. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Leaky Bucket podcast. I'd love it if you could help spread the message by clicking subscribe and leaving a review. Also, please do reach out to me on LinkedIn and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can also find more info and links in the show notes below. See you next time.